Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 94 for February 13th, 2009. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. For your free audiobook, visit audible.com/Windows. And by Go to My PC. Wherever you go, access your PC and all your files, programs, and email remotely with Go to My PC. For a free trial of this award-winning service, visit gotomypc.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers all things Microsoft, whether it be Zune, whether it be Windows 2008 Server Edition, Windows Home Server. Mr. Paul Thurrott is here, the star of the show. He is, of course, the man who writes the SuperSite for Windows, winsupersite.com, news editor for Windows IT Pro, and the author of the fabulous Windows Vista Secrets by Wiley & Sons. Hello, Mr. Paul.
Hello. How are you?
So Microsoft... I
seem confused to be here for some reason.
Are you confused? Are you puzzled by your presence on this show?
Who am I? Why am I here?
Is this all a bad dream?
I knew John F. Kennedy.
You are.
You, sir.
No.
You, sir.
John Kennedy. There's a line from the past, a blast from the past. So what happened, I guess Microsoft, shortly after we did the show last week, changed their mind on UAC.
Yes, they did.
Thank you, Microsoft.
Yeah, there's been a lot of strange doublespeak around that one.
They say what? Now this one, let's go. Okay, we'll back up a little bit.
I don't even. It's
Windows 7. They said we're going to tune UAC so it's less annoying.
Right, which they did, and it is.
It is, but it turns out one security researcher said it might be a little bit more vulnerable because if a bad guy gets on your machine, he could turn it off entirely.
Right. My Microsoft's response, by the way, to all this stuff has always been, yeah, but first you have to have something bad on your machine. You know,
right.
And we have all this stuff in Windows that prevents you from getting bad stuff on your machine.
And the truth is, once something bad is on your machine, there's all sorts of other stuff that can happen that's bad too. It's not
absolutely.
Yeah. But if it's an easy thing to fix, why not fix it? And for some reason, they said we're not going to fix it.
Right.
Well, they changed their mind. They're going to fix it.
They are going to fix it, yeah.
In fact, they're going to do exactly the right thing, which is they're going to make it so that nothing can change the settings of UAC, regardless of what level that slider's at, without asking your permission.
They should call the resulting product Windows Vista.
Is UAC... That's an interesting question. Is it now exactly as it was in Vista?
Who could say? I don't think so.
I think it's still a little less annoying, isn't it?
I still feel like I'm the only person in the world who thought that the way it was in Vista was okay.
Doesn't bother me.
And that,
I shouldn't say that. It bothered me a little bit because there were a few things it would do. Yeah. And now that I understand why it was doing it, it was bugging me. Like when I tried to delete a desktop icon, it would say, that could be unsafe. Click yes or no. The other thing I think that really bothers people is that sudden drop, the screen goes to black.
Yes. That's a security measure, right? That screen is called the secure desktop. It's the same screen you get to when you do Control-Delete. It's the screen you get to for the log on and so forth. So
it's not a
special
deal.
Screen.
It's not a big deal.
I don't.
No.
I think the bigger issue in some ways, and maybe this is a personal issue for me, because I've had a little bit of a back and forth with Steven Sinofsky about this, is I really feel like Microsoft isn't that open to feedback for Windows 7, that by locking the feature set down so early before anyone got to see it, that they've set themselves up for this position where if people complain about things, they're not going to fix it because it's already complete.
Well, they say this proves that's not the case because, look, you didn't like it, we changed it.
Yeah, okay, except that, there are two things that are changing in UAC. They're acknowledging that one of them is, in fact, from feedback, but it's an incredibly minor change. The other one, which is what we're talking about, they actually, in their blog post about this, refuse to acknowledge it. This came from feedback that, in fact, this change had been planned all along.
That's like a little kid. You didn't make me do it.
By the way, that's exactly what I said. I said, this is how children behave.
Yeah. It wasn't your idea. It was my idea. I thought of it first.
Yep. That's exactly what they said. But then they can point to this other one and say, well, I don't know what you're complaining about. We are responding to feedback. See? See? Jerk.
See? Jerk. You're a jerk. You're a jerk. And I thought of it first. So there.
Exactly.
Okay. We're smarter. I'm smarter. We do. We're going to listen to user feedback, but we don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. You should be happy we listen to anything. We said we would listen to it. We didn't say we would act on it.
But I guess there was enough of a furor that they felt like, well, we probably should do something.
Well, this is a dumb thing to take.
It's an easy thing to fix.
Yes, and it's something they should fix. So it's a win-win.
I mean, I don't think it would break anything. You just say, okay, we're going to ship it with the slider up one notch.
Right.
Big deal.
There's a lot. This whole issue is silly. This is like debating the merits of the Windows firewall. I told you about my babysitter's machine and how it was an electronic ashtray of viruses and Trojans and all this stuff. So I got that thing fixed. My brother's machine.
Electronic ashtray. I really like that. I really like that. Well, you got all the butts out.
Yeah. So I get this thing in my office now, my brother's PC. He actually brought this to a place, sort of a friend of his, one of those, OS fell out of the back of a truck kind of deals.
Yeah.
And something was so wrong with it, so he asked me to look at it. So what boots up is this version of Windows Vista, Windows XP, that's styled to look like Windows Vista, and it has a virus on it. And it's got to be some incredibly pirated version of Windows. So I've just wiped the whole thing out. And I can't.
They probably got it on the Pirate Bay.
You know what?
It's a BitTorrent version.
I don't understand how people get viruses. I just don't get it.
Well, sometimes it's not your fault, but usually you have to do something. Right?
I don't know.
Hey,
I realize I'm inviting an electronic attack of epic, proportions here, but
this is okay. Let's do that. Let's see. This is a test. See if Paul can get infected.
Huh?
Oh, you don't mean just like email nasty emails? I was thinking maybe like somebody would try to like get you a virus just for you.
Like that, sure.
Just for you. Are you not decaffeinated?
Huh?
You're not decaffeinated?
What are you talking about?
Caffeinate, please. What are you drinking? Is that a whiskey sour?
It's water.
Okay. I wish it were a whiskey. You don't have a whiskey sour, do you? Because I could use one.
I don't. I'm sorry.
So moving right along.
Yes.
Secret information has now been revealed on the upgrade path from Vista to 7.
Yeah, I haven't written about this yet, but there's a website out there that has published what appears to be a legitimate internal documentation that answers one of the big questions I've had. Right, we talked last week about the different product editions that Microsoft announced for Windows 7, but there were so many questions. How much will these things cost? What will happen, between different versions of products and so forth. So one of the questions I had from last week was, let's say I have Windows Vista Home Edition, Home Premium Edition. I want to upgrade to some version of Windows 7. Can I only upgrade to Home Premium? Can I upgrade to Professional? Can I upgrade to Ultimate? And if those latter two are a possibility, does that mean there are going to be 3 different upgrade versions just for that one version of Windows? And will they have different costs? And, how does this work? So the thing that came out in this documentation is they're only supporting upgrades for Windows Vista Home Premium, Business, and Ultimate, and only to the version of Windows 7 that most closely matches up to it. So if you do have Home Premium, the answer is when you buy the upgrade version of Windows 7, you will be upgraded to Windows 7 Home Premium.
That's exactly what should happen.
Yes, because in this version of Windows, of course, they have that Anywhere upgrade service. It's built into the OS, and you'll be able to use that in 10 minutes to go from whatever version you have to an upper-level version on the fly, essentially. So this makes sense, right? Because this will simplify the process somewhat. Now, there are still issues with 64-bit and 32-bit. Obviously, if you have a 32-bit version of Windows Vista Home Premium, you will not be able to upgrade on the fly to Windows 7 Home Premium X64 version.
Oh, right? That's too bad. Well, that makes sense, though, because it's 32 to 64.
Right. But they'll still support the upgrade. You'll get the upgrade price, but you won't be able to do the input.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's for technical reasons, because that's a whole new kernel. You can't just
think of the map of convoluted possibilities, right? From any version of Windows, whatever, to any version of Windows 7. I mean, it would be so hard to even fathom.
Well, and any sensible person
choices.
knows that you just wipe the drive and start over.
Sure. Well,
now, I tried it.
Person knows to buy a new PC, right?
Right. Don't even buy Windows. I mean, just have it come with a new computer. I tried, just out of curiosity, I tried doing the 7 upgrade to my one of my Vista machines, a very late model, brand new, the Dell 16. And it felt slow, felt sluggish, and I ended up wiping it. I just did it for an experiment, just wiping it and starting over anyway. It just seems like there's less cruft that way.
How long did it take?
Not long. It's as you've mentioned before, the Windows 7 install is pretty snappy.
Right.
It's an image install, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be faster than the upgrade because it's just going to blast itself right on there.
A straight install of 7 should take about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's very quick.
It's not bad at all.
It's the fastest I can remember.
I used the Anytime upgrade to upgrade a version of Windows 7 Home Premium to Ultimate, and that took about 10 minutes.
Wait a minute. You have a copy of Windows 7 Home Premium?
Yes.
Because the beta that we all got was Ultimate.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, so you got PD? Is that the PDC version or?
No,
you just
it's just a different.
You got a different one. Okay, you're special. I admit it.
I'm not. No, I'm not
you're special. Although it's a weird way to be special to get a lesser version, but okay.
Wow, this from the Chess King.
Oh, don't mock me now.
Jeez.
Before the show, we were talking about how when
you were playing chess, Leo, did you wear skinny ties?
Yeah, you're supposed to dress up when you go to the tournament, and a white short sleeve shirt. Yeah.
Pocket protector.
Yeah, hi, I'm your opponent. My first move is E4.
Built-in grab straps for the wedgies you would receive on the way.
I was a good chess. I was a Rhode Island State 14 and under champion. I was such a geek.
Wow.
Such a nerd. Such a nerd. Okay. Thank you for that moment. That moment of humiliation. It's brought it all back to me.
You got to bite back,
So does this, you said you haven't written about it. Is this official, though? Has Microsoft released this information, or did you get some sort of sneaky insight?
I saw this on a website. So if you go to, I created a tiny URL for it. If you go to tinyurl.com/Win7Upgraders, you can see the article and then what it quotes from that document, which again, to me looks real. I can't confirm that it is real, but it's worded in such a way and is logical enough. It seems like it makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of what we were talking about last week, that this is how it ought to be.
Exactly. The other thing I would like to point out, and I'm looking for some confirmation on this, but I've now heard from multiple sources that not only will Ultimate Extras not be included in Windows 7, right? This horrible, horrible feature from Windows Vista. But if you upgrade, you'll actually lose, if not, you'll lose some of those features, if not all of them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Now, I'm hoping what they do is they release these things as free downloads from the web or something, at least get them out there. In fact, if anything, they should just open them up to everybody. Although, you could see that angering certain people who spent a lot of money on Ultimate Edition there. But, it's too bad they had to orphan that off.
So 7 Ultimate is less ultimate than Vista Ultimate.
Is less ultimate. Well, it's ultimate in a different way, I guess is the way I would say it. It's a different kind of ultimate.
The new kind of ultimate. What about business? Is there a business upgrade path? How do they?
Yeah, business will upgrade to Professional, Windows 7 Professional, and of course Windows Vista Ultimate will upgrade to Windows 7 Ultimate.
And if they have XP, they're screwed.
If they have XP,
because I think a lot of businesses skipped Vista, didn't they?
Yeah, and we'll talk about this in a moment. One of the actually really odd issues about this is, aside from the XP and Vista stuff, there are certain versions of Vista that don't qualify for upgrades at all. Now, I assume that these people would, in fact, get upgrade pricing, but there's no way to do it. Apparently, no way to do an in-place upgrade. So if you have Windows Vista Starter Edition, which is probably pretty rare, or Windows Vista Home Basic, which actually is not that rare, there's no way to upgrade directly to a new product version.
So, but you can buy. What can you buy? Can you buy?
See, I don't know. It's unclear from this document. So, in other words, if you had Windows Vista Home Basic and you wanted to upgrade to 7, how do you do that?
Right.
What's your upgrade path? I'm nervous that the solution to that might be you can upgrade to Home Premium, but you have to pay a little bit extra. You can't buy that standard upgrade package. I'm not sure, but right now it looks like there are no upgrade options for those people. Yeah. Curious.
Curiouser and curiouser. Whatever could they be thinking?
It's funny because with all these product editions, you think that this would not be so complicated, but here we are.
You were being sarcastic there, right?
These guys crack me up. But this is exactly what happens, right? How stupid is this that we're having this conversation?
It seems like it's not the most important subject in the world, and yet you do.
Well, it is important because unfortunately, the reality is we all have these different versions of the product. Now we have to figure out
what do we get
can upgrade.
Next. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great rationale for not having so many versions right here.
It's also a great rationale for doing what I think most people do, which is not upgrading Windows until you upgrade to get a new computer, and then you get whatever version's current. Do you have any estimate of how many? Has Microsoft ever said how many people do it that way versus how many people actually purchase upgrades? Is going out and buying an upgrade on a disk, is that common?
No, it's not common at all. In fact, I haven't talked to them about this in the past few months, but the most recent time. It was probably right around the time Vista was released, and it is some unbelievably small number. It's something like less than 5%.
So really, people just buy Windows when they buy a new computer, and that's it.
Overwhelmingly, yeah. Between the business, the volume license sales, the bulk purchases at businesses, and also PC bundles, that's over 95% of Windows deployments right there. Yeah.
Is it typical in business to not upgrade and just say, "Well, this is what it came with"? It's certainly prudent. But at some point, you want to get the features of the new operating system, if the security, if nothing else.
Yeah. So this is a really complex issue. It depends on businesses and business types, the size of the business, and so forth. Everyone has a sort of technological roadmap, that they're on, and and of course in today's economy, we're going to want to stretch these life cycles out as long as possible. But yeah, there's a weird kind of math you have to do when you think about the cost of keeping what you have versus the cost of upgrading and what that entails. Does it entail new hardware? Does it entail upgrading the hardware so you can run the new system? Or does it entail doing nothing along those lines, but just redoing the software images and so forth? Can you have a heterogeneous environment? Does it make sense to have some people in XP, some people in Vista, some people later on 7? There's all kinds of things that go into this. And of course, now that Microsoft has announced Windows 7, a lot of companies have gone to Microsoft and said, okay, now what? We were maybe a good portion of a way through our Vista deployment. So do we wait? Do we stop? What's the story? And, as far as numbers go, one thing I've been hoping that Microsoft would talk about, and they still haven't, is how well Vista's been doing lately, And what I was told the other day, I had a very long briefing about deployment issues around Windows Vista and Windows 7. And they claimed that, they being Microsoft, that Vista deployments were actually well ahead in businesses from what people would believe. That the common feeling out there was that Vista's not doing very, very well. But actually, there's a huge percentage of enterprises that are already well along the path to deploying Vista across the board.
What will they do? Will they wait till 7? What do they do now?
That's the thing. So there's sort of a matrix of sorts. You have to look at what you have, look at what you could have. Think 18 months down the road. Look at the cost. Look at the benefits of moving to new platforms versus the cost of doing so. There are sort of these ancillary programs that Microsoft has for its volume license customers, like the desktop optimization pack, which makes different things better, including deployment. So there's a lot going on there. If you look at Windows 2000, which has got to still be out there, right, and in some businesses, Windows 2000, that thing is actually going to be leaving extended support sometime next year. So if you're looking 18 months ahead, that means they literally will have no support for this operating system from the OS maker after a certain time period. And then there's also application support, right? When you think about something as old as Windows 2000, are there many modern applications that you might want to run that even work on that version of Windows anymore? And this is something I've not actually examined. I can't even stand using Windows XP, but a lot of people still run Windows 2000, I'm sure. So there's a concern there that with Windows 2000, you really just need to move ahead as quickly as you can. And given the timetable, Microsoft's saying, look, just deploy Vista now. You got to get off of this thing. It's just not secure.
Could that be why they're not announcing a release date for Windows 7 to encourage people to do that?
Well, that's the weird fine line you have to walk, right? you want people to be excited about what's coming down the road. But on the other hand, if they get too excited, they stop buying what you're selling now. It is very strange. There's a big crowd, especially in the business space, of people who are still running Windows XP. Actually, I'm sure there's a big crowd still running Windows XP on consumer desktops as well. That's a little more complicated because, again, Windows XP has been on the market long enough. It's been kind of propped up enough.
It's pretty solid now, and they're still supporting it.
Yeah. The thing about XP, though, is it really isn't as secure as Vista and not as secure as Windows 7. So you have to do additional things in Windows XP to keep that thing up to a certain level of security and so forth. So, the cost of doing that and the complexity of doing that and the additional overhead of, having the third-party applications you might need and so forth is sort of an issue you need to deal with. Anyway, I think what this boils down to essentially is that, Windows Vista and Windows 7 really aren't that different. There are obviously some key differences in Windows 7 that are important to different groups of people, but a heterogeneous environment that included, by which I mean, an enterprise or a business where you had desktops running different versions of Windows or even different operating systems. If that thing was made up of Vista and Windows 7 machines, whatever the mix might be, I don't think that's going to be too confusing to people. I think that moving, between XP, Vista, and 7 might be a bit much, and that's going to be difficult. And the other thing I think that people are going to be I really need to think about is waiting on 7 is not going to improve anything if you're an XP user, right? If you think you're going to skip over some complexity by skipping over Vista, you're not, because the leap from XP to Vista and the leap from XP to 7 is just about the same, right? Vista and 7 share the same underpinning. So all those architectural issues that cause the changes that cause the compatibility problems,
right?
The performance issues for the most part.
Doesn't 7 perform better though? I mean, isn't it?
It does, but when you're moving from XP though, you got to remember it's not going to perform as good as XP.
Right.
Right. It's still a newer system and a bigger system.
Right.
So I mean, the perceived change between XP and Vista and XP and 7, it's probably very, very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's cosmetic is the only difference, really. I would. It
boils down to, I think, where you are. In the process, I guess Microsoft's basically saying, look, if you're already rolling out Vista, just keep doing that. It's fine. This is a system that we supported for years to come. It will be updated with.
It's only 2 years old. Come on. I mean, it's still pretty new.
Right. Exactly. And don't be fooled into thinking that, Windows 7 is this completely new thing that's going to change the world, because we made improvements. We get it. But it's Vista, right? I mean, it's based on that Vista foundation. So it is complicated. I'm hoping they gave me so much information. I'm just looking at it. I'm trying to figure out, how do I communicate this in a way that makes sense? And it is one of those things that happens every once in a while. You get something like this, and it's hard to even figure out how do you give advice to anybody and what to do. It is a complex issue.
Which would be resolved if Microsoft would just say when 7's going to come out. You can't. Yeah. You're missing a big part of the equation, which is, well, how long? If 7 comes out in a month, then wait. If it comes out in a year, then don't wait. But we don't know. Yeah. I mean, reasonably, you think fall for Windows 7?
By the fall.
Has to be, right?
But the one thing I came back with was, but Windows 7 comes out. Fine. Don't businesses always wait for Service Pack 1 anyway?
That's a good point. Good point.
I mean, the release
they're not
going to
go to Windows 7 right like that. You're absolutely right.
And they've never done that. They won't now.
So they're talking a year before they'd be willing even to look at Windows 7. So yeah, in that case, you're absolutely right. You got to go to Vista now. If you're on XP.
The funny thing about this conversation was the day that it appeared, there was an article in the New York Times, and they were talking about individuals here, not about businesses, but they were talking about the difference between spending and investing, and saying that it's tough in this kind of economy. You look at it and you think, well, this is the time I got to, really hunker down, not spend money, and just save as much as I can. And you have to really, you have to step back though and say, well, hold on a second. Sometimes you can spend money to save money, and that's the difference between just spending and investing. So the very typical example is the notion of an automated thermostat or something. So you spend $79 on this thing, you put it on your wall, and yes, it's money that you spend, but over time, because it's automating the heating of the house, you actually do save money. And if you think about Windows deployments in this way, in businesses, it really is the same kind of thing. Is it possible to spend some money now to save money over a long period of time? Again, looking out over the life cycle of the machines and the upgrade cycles and so forth. And there's a lot involved. It's very complex.
What would your advice be? I think my advice would be go to Vista. Do not delay. That seems like the only sensible advice at this point. Yes?
Yeah. I in general, I would say that that's true. I mean, in fact, it's worth doing right now. Let me go look at the list. The one thing you might want to do is look at the list of what do I get in Windows 7 compared to Windows Vista? What changes?
Well, yeah, tell me that, because I'd like to know that.
And the truth is, it's not necessarily a lot.
The kernel is the same. The driver model is the same.
Well, I'm talking about
the stack is the same.
Pure sort of end user functionality in a business.
It's
as an admin. Well, I mean, there are a few things, right? So, for example, Windows Vista has BitLocker, right? The original version of Windows Vista, BitLocker, which is full drive encryption, was only available on the system drive. Starting with Service Pack 1, it was available on all of the fixed drives. Starting with Windows 7, it's available with USB storage as well. That's actually kind of a big deal, right? Because people are bringing devices in and out of the business all the time. People expect to have the same power, the same functionality they have at home with their big PCs as they do at work, and it's hard. You want to manage that. And rather than, super gluing over the USB port on your computers, which, by the way, a lot of businesses are doing, you can actually manage it through software with BitLocker. So, that's one thing. Are there third-party things that do that? Yes, there probably are. So I guess you could sort of look at those two things and say, is this one feature reason enough to upgrade to Windows 7? Maybe not. Windows 7 has something called App Locker, which is a way through group policy to manage which applications end users can install. And again, this speaks to that notion that people today are computer savvy. They expect to be on a computer and look, I need to install Adobe Reader so I can look at a PDF file. Why can't I do that? You can create a whitelist of applications that it's okay for them to install. So maybe you don't allow a torrent application, a BitTorrent application, but you do allow Adobe Reader or whatever.
So you can't do that on Vista? I'm surprised. That seems like a kind of fundamental thing.
Right.
Huh.
So there, the other
I
stuff.
can see if you needed that. If those are there's some specific situations, but in general, it's not. The differences are fairly minor.
Yes, exactly. Direct access, branch cache, federated search, which is the Windows search feature, but across your enterprise. There are things like that in Windows 7. So, again, are these enough? It's hard to say. The version of PowerShell that's in Windows 7 is far more powerful than the version of Windows Vista.
I got to learn PowerShell.
Yeah, well, this is the time to do it because the new version, the Windows 7 version, is aimed more toward what I would call, normal people in the context of a business, so IT administrators, power users.
PowerShell is a scripting language and
a runtime environment. That's right.
Yeah. So it allows you to automate a lot of what
the first version of PowerShell was very developer oriented. And if you didn't really have that developer background, if you were an IT administrator, I don't think it's the type of thing you could easily grok. The new version, they've made some, not concessions, but they've made some improvements so that it's easier. And also there are a lot of built-in scripts for administrative purposes. There are also some, in the server version of the OS, is actually an entire management console built on top of PowerShell so that you can have true interoperability between the GUI and the scripting environment. So there are some advantages. But, yeah, I think in general, going to Vista today would be fine and would give you, 90%, of what you get in 7, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. There's a huge gap between XP.
That's the bigger jump.
And Vista. In fact, I said to the people I talked with at Microsoft about this, and they actually agreed with this, that the relationship between Windows 7 and Windows Vista is very much like the relationship between Windows XP and Windows 2000. Where the two OSs that you're talking about in each case are based on the same foundation. They look a little different from each other, but they're the same basic thing.
And you could even make XP look just like Windows 2000.
Absolutely, and of course, a lot of businesses
do that. First thing I did,
yeah. So I think for whatever reason, because of those architectural similarities, Windows 2000 and XP, it seems like they interoperate well. They work well together.
Yes. And Vista, and 7 will be just like that. Yeah.
I think they'll have that same relationship.
Is 7 more secure?
Yeah, it is. But, again, I think except for user account control.
Yeah. Vista's pretty secure. I mean, I think we haven't seen any 2 years, and Vista's proven pretty secure.
Right. And again, we don't have new data on this for some reason, but I know that the first year report on Vista was some significant number of fewer vulnerabilities than XP had in its first year. I think let alone in the same year.
Mostly what I see with superficially with Windows 7 is it's just a more polished user experience.
Yeah, as it should be, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's a year, 2 years later, be 2.5 years later, or whatever.
Have you played with PC Safeguard at all?
No.
So that's the idea is it sandboxes your it's a Windows 7 feature that sandboxes your stuff. I haven't done it yet. I want to turn it on. I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts about it. That's something that may be a business would like, you know.
Yeah, so I think in the future there'll be technologies like something you're describing, sandboxing, or even virtual machine technology, where it has to be seamless to the end user. But the idea is that these things run in these isolated environments, and that you don't, as a user, don't even know what's happening, let alone notice it, or let alone have to go and find it and make it happen, right?
Well, I'm setting up Windows 7 for my wife, for instance, on MSI Wind. And I would turn on that PC Safeguard so that, basically any changes she makes to the system when she reboots are gone. It's like steady state. That's to me something for an inexperienced user is a really nice feature. And I would imagine businesses would love this.
Sure.
If it works.
If it works. Parental controls for work, kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah. Well, no, you could still do stuff, but then you reboot and all the settings are restored.
Right.
I just like the idea. I don't know. I haven't played with it. So, in fact, I wasn't even aware of it until somebody mentioned it in the chat, but it looks kind of cool.
I do not know.
More research required. Getting on to the...
some research required.
Getting on to the European Union, our favorite folks.
Yeah.
They're going after... Is it IE8 or IE7? What is it that they're...
Just IE. I'm losing patience with the European Union here. I mean,
they're not happy with the N version of Windows.
They're not happy with anything, you know.
Hey, we made a version nobody wants just for you. What more could you ask for?
And listen, based on that success, we're going to launch a few more antitrust charges against Microsoft and see what we can do there.
Man,
I find this whole thing to be absolutely ludicrous. And actually, I quoted from a guy who's sort of an antitrust expert today in a news story because I found it really interesting that aside from the fact that he just agrees with what I feel about this, he came up with some good information that I had completely forgotten about, which was this. The United States government sued Microsoft for bundling IE with Windows. However, and then they won, right? They won the court case, and they found that Microsoft had illegally bundled IE with Windows. There's just one problem. That decision was overturned on appeal. So this settlement that they did in the meantime has nothing to do with IE and Windows. That was overturned. The court here has already ruled against this very notion. And I would also point out that in the years since, Firefox has emerged especially as a huge competitor for IE. And as Microsoft is sitting here trying to release the next version of their product, they're losing market share every single month. So what are we talking about? What are we doing?
What are we doing?
I just don't agree with this. There's no point in this. I think I don't know. I don't remember if we talked about this last week or before, but every other OS bundles a browser. Apple makes their own browser and they bundle it in their OS.
You wouldn't put out an OS without a browser these days. I mean, Linux doesn't come with a browser.
Someone said jokingly to me, how would I download another browser if it didn't come
without
with
a browser? You got to have a browser.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But I should also point out the person I'm talking about is William Page. He wrote a paper called the Microsoft Case, Antitrust, High Technology, and Consumer Welfare. He also points out, by the way, that in the wake of Microsoft's U.S. antitrust trial, and by the way, we're going back 8 years now, Microsoft agreed to allow PC makers to change the default browser and essentially remove all visual evidence of IE in the OS if they so chose. and that in the interim 8 years, not a single PC maker has actually taken advantage of this.
Because nobody wants that. No customer.
Nobody wants it.
Now, we should point out that just because the difference is that Microsoft was judged a monopoly. I mean, Apple can bundle a browser. You can act like you can do something. The rules are different for monopolies, I guess, is it?
You're right.
But I think what's changed since those rulings is that the browser is now an indispensable feature of the operating system.
Right. And by the way, Microsoft's desire to bundle a browser with Windows doesn't harm Apple in the sense that it doesn't prevent Apple from bundling a browser in their own OS. So I think they have something that they can point to. They can say, hey, every single Linux distribution on Earth bundles Firefox, basically, right? Apple bundles their own as well. I mean, it would be a competitive disadvantage to require us. It's like going to a car maker and say, hey, you sold too many cars. You can't put tires on those things anymore. We know everyone else gets to do it, but you just sold too many cars.
Right.
It's crazy.
You're a monopoly, so you can't use tires. Is an excellent analogy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you need snow tires. Maybe you don't. I don't know. It comes with whatever it comes with. Nobody understands better than I think that monopolies are forced to behave differently. It's just the way it is. Certain behavior is okay until you become a monopoly. I really do get that. But this is silly. And it's coming in a day and age in which Microsoft is actively removing stuff from Windows. Don't you think that if it made sense to them to remove IE, they already would have?
I don't think they can. I don't think
they can either. I really don't.
In.
Yeah, I do too, which is unfortunate. But.
All right, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Gmail. We're going to talk about Everything Must Go. Yes, another Everything Must Go. And I want to get your impression of the Kindle. The new Kindle is coming. Before we do that, I want to mention Go to My PC. These are the wonderful folks at Citrix who have really figured out how to do remote access right. We were talking yesterday on Security Now about the fact that there's a flaw in VNC, the open source remote access product. Now, I think it's great that there's an open source remote access product, but if you've used VNC, it's a little bit slow. And what about security? Whereas Go to My PC is as fast as you can get. These guys understand the underlying core of Windows because they wrote a lot of it, and they've written the best remote access out there. And secure, you bet. 128-bit encryption. You could use this as a VPN if you wanted. And to my knowledge, there's never been an exploit on Go to My PC. Go to My PC is easy. It's award-winning. PC World gave it their world-class award yet again this year for best remote access software, and it's free for the next 30 days. Here's what happens. You just go right now. Go to gotomypc.com/Windows. Gotomypc.com/Windows. Within 2 minutes, you'll have it set up on your office computer. Now, wherever you go, at home, at an internet cafe, with no security, at a hotel, at an airport, no matter where, you log on to gotomypc.com with your username and password. Instantly, you're seeing your Office desktop, so you can run any program. You can send and receive email. You can surf safely and securely. You can even drag and drop files from your Office desktop to your current desktop or laptop. It's just remarkable. Fast, effective, secure, easy to use, and free for the next 30 days. Go to gotomypc.com/Windows before your next trip. Make sure you install Go to My PC at work. You'll be so glad you did. gotomypc.com/Windows. Windows Weekly, Paul Thurrott, Leo Laporte. We're talking about the latest Microsoft news. Well, this isn't Microsoft news, but you're liking Gmail. You're liking Gmail.
Yeah. I'm amazed at how often my decision to switch to Gmail has been rewarded.
Is it your full-time email? It's what you use?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, it has gotten to the point I had a hard time switching.
Feature a day, it seems like. Now.
Yeah. I don't understand why anyone uses anything else. And now I know, having said that, I will receive 100 emails from people.
I don't. I use Fastmail, which is similar. I mean, it's IMAP, it's web-based. But Fastmail has a couple of features that keep me paying the $30 a year for it. But no, Gmail's great.
Gmail's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So what do you
like?
There's
all kinds of stuff going on there. Well, first of all, I just say I was an Outlook guy, right? I mean, I run, I use Microsoft stuff. The thought of using a web email service after using Outlook, to me, was painful, right? This would be terrible. But, the truth is the web interface for Gmail works wonderfully.
It's fast. It's easy. It's fast. Keystroke. You use the keystrokes, I'm sure, right?
Yep. And they've just done so much to this thing over time. They don't. Well, actually, they do folders now. That's one of the things they've added. But instead of using the traditional folders, they have this label system, so it works like a database, which I think is wonderful. They have a labs setup now where you can run essentially beta add-ons for Gmail, like offline support, for example. So now they added gear support to Gmail. You can have all your stuff be available offline. You can be on a plane without any internet connection, access your Gmail, check your mail, send mail, and obviously everything synchronizes when you arrive and get to your connection and so forth. There's so much cool stuff in there, but what they did over this past week was implement something that I think just sort of puts it over the top, especially for me. I happen to use an iPhone, but this service works with a variety of mobile devices, including Windows mobile devices, BlackBerries, a couple of different Nokia devices, and so forth. But they've implemented sync for Google Contacts, which happens through Gmail, and also for Google Calendar over the air to these devices. And it works, and they used Microsoft's Exchange Active Sync technology.
I thought that was really interesting that they use Active Sync.
Yeah, so
Does
Microsoft,
it work for you? Because I haven't tried it, but a couple of people have tried it. Because I use Mobile Me, but a couple of people have tried it, and it's not working for them.
Yeah, no, it works,
Okay.
and it is. Also, one thing I've heard from people is, supposedly it doesn't work with multiple calendars. It actually does work with multiple
Up to
calendars.
5, right?
Up to 5, yeah. Now, I don't actually recommend multiple calendars for a variety of reasons. We'll get to that later on. But
I'm stuck. I got like dozens.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get caught up into that, but I we'll get there.
Oh, good.
Anyway,
all right.
So I think that previously I would say I was using something called Nueva Sync, which is a free service for now. And actually, now that Gmail's doing it, I don't even know how they're going to survive. But it was basically a way to offer over-the-air push support for Gmail Contacts and Google Calendar to the iPhone. Now, the benefit of Google Sync for mobile devices, which is what the service is called, is it works with multiple devices, right? It comes from Google. I don't know if that necessarily means it's going to be superior enough, but obviously they know their own back end better than anybody and so forth. I find it very interesting that they're using Microsoft Exchange technology because they've essentially just enabled over-the-air Exchange support for free to anyone who wants it, which is something Microsoft doesn't do.
Right.
Now, they're going to have sync services, Microsoft is, sometime in the future. They've leaked the fact that they're working on something called My Phone, which will offer free synchronization services, but only to Windows mobile devices. And it's not clear how well it will work compared to, say, the Google stuff or the Apple stuff. If you're paying for something like Mobile Me, by the way, this is basically Mobile Me for free, right? The important part of Mobile Me, that is.
Right.
Right, which is, and you can do IMAP on the iPhone, which is wonderful, and which is what I do. You can do Google Calendar and Gmail Contacts sync over the air. I mean, that's the important stuff for Mobile Me right there. And it's back and forth, right? So if you edit something on the phone, it goes back to the cloud. If you edit something from the web interface, it goes back to the phone. This stuff works really, really well. And I just, we talked one time about, as good as the Zune is, I mean, sometimes the market speaks, right? And, when it comes to that sort of infrastructure that Apple's created with the iTunes and the iPods and all that stuff, I mean, I think they've created something that's not going to be beaten anytime soon. Gmail and Google don't have that kind of dominance in email or calendaring or contacts management. But, I just don't see anyone else even being close to this. I just don't.
They're smart. They're really smart.
We'll see what Microsoft does. But this was, you got to remember, you can do over-the-air sync as a consumer right now using Exchange directly from Microsoft, but it costs $10 a month. This thing is free, right? And the storage you get on Gmail is astronomical compared to the $10 we get you. It's not even close. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, I have tried in different areas to adopt some sort of Microsoft thing, and in some cases it just hasn't made sense. And one of them is just email contacts and calendaring. It just doesn't make sense compared to what's available on the Google side right now.
Yeah, Gmail's killer in that regard, and it's such a pain to set up an Exchange server and a Exchange mail and stuff. It works. It's just straightforward. Yeah, and now that it syncs, I think there's really not much of a compelling reason to do anything else.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna have to play with it. But now I have a ton of calendars because I have work calendars and my calendar and
Yep.
So I'm thinking the 5 calendar limit might be a little bit of a hindrance. I have a Twit Live calendar for our broadcasts. Maybe I shouldn't have like a travel calendar and a speaking calendar. Maybe I should consolidate those.
So this is part of my tip of the week, but I would just say this. I used to have multiple calendars as well. And the reason I switched away from that was actually tied to when I switched over to Google a couple of years ago, because Google Calendar, I believe from day one, supported multiple calendars. But there was something screwy about it where you couldn't share anything but the primary calendar. And what I had wanted to do was maintain my multiple calendar, because I had, I don't remember the exact topics or heading, whatever they were, but home or personal, work. I had workout stuff in there, or health or whatever.
Right,
I had, whatever.
That's
travel,
what I've
like
got.
you said.
Yeah.
So because I couldn't share sub calendars, which is what I really wanted. I wanted my wife to know when I was traveling.
She should have my personal calendar, my travel calendar. She doesn't need to know when I'm on the air. Exactly.
Right. Well, I ended up switching to one calendar, just a single calendar, and I just share the whole thing. But what I found over time is, okay, you don't get the free colors or whatever. It's especially when you're on an iPhone, it's nice. You bring it up and they all have different colors and everything. But the reality is, I only have one schedule. It's just me.
It's true.
I do what I do.
Right.
Hey, if I'm busy because I'm at the gym or I'm busy because I'm talking to you on the podcast,
doesn't really matter. That's you.
Doesn't matter. I'm busy either way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Obviously, different people have different styles and different ways of doing things.
Well, I don't want to tip your hand. We'll talk about this in your tip of the week. But
okay.
All right, you can help me. You can help me, Paul.
Okay.
You can help me organize my life.
We're going to get through this one together, big guy.
Thank you. We had on Net at Night this week, we had David Allen, the guy who wrote Getting Things Done.
Yes.
And every time I talk to him, I just feel less and less adequate.
Right. Now, are you going to, you talked about doing a podcast around this sort of topic, right?
Getting things done? No,
around the more,
the future of work. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The future, how life changes in the new. Yeah. We are going to do that.
Because these are all great topics for that kind of thing.
And you do need, what? That's a very good point. I mean, I wasn't thinking that we would cover, personal organization, but it is part of it, isn't it? And if you're, especially when you are now in the, if you work for a corporation, you are perforced, given tools and have to use those tools. But when you work on your own, you've got to solve this all for yourself.
Yes.
You've got to figure it all out. And that is, you're right. And I think a lot of what we're going to be talking efficiency. Well, a lot of what we're going to be talking about is really how work is changing. So I think that you're right. We'll put that on the list.
Well, some of the things.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Are you?
I'm not trying to dictate the.
No. You're in charge here. You're the boss. You're the boss of me.
I see.
You are going to get a Kindle, right? 2?
I am.
Dos, did you order it already?
I did.
You, me, Steve Gibson, Andy Ihnatko, like all the twits.
Hey, look, listen. I would have to stretch the bounds of credibility to suggest that this thing's ever going to pay for itself.
No.
The truth is, I read a lot. I read more than most people. I certainly read more than most Americans today.
Yeah, that's not saying much, but yeah.
I know. My Kindle is out and in use every single day.
Yep.
And I think we've discussed this in the past. I mean, I have very few problems with it. I'm not one of those people who felt like the layout of the buttons was an issue. I mean, yes, I had to hold the thing a little differently than I would have off the bat, but, it's a different thing. It's okay. And
yes.
I hold it very naturally every day and love it. I love the way it works. So I think the changes that they made in the second version make a lot of sense because they actually do address the few problems I've had with it, And obviously, like a lot of people, I'd like to see color happen down the line at some point, but I don't think that's important for the majority of things I would want to read on this device.
No.
My wife got me for Christmas a wonderful, basically a picture book, where you open it up and on the left side, there's some text explaining what you're seeing on the right. And this is the type of thing, obviously, it would be impossible to do this in an audiobook. It wouldn't translate well to an electronic book, A, because the color is so important, and B, just because the layout is so big.
And there's an aesthetic of wanting to look at this in, nice, beautiful, big color pictures. But that's not what the Kindle's for. The Kindle is much more utilitarian.
No. It's for newspapers and magazines, which it works wonderfully for. It's for novels and books that are text.
I'll give you an example. We were talking about PowerShell. I thought, well, I'll see what's on Amazon PowerShell.
Yep.
And then I noticed, half of these are on the Kindle. Well, of course I'm going to order the Kindle version.
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to have it right away. It's going to be there. It's just easier.
Yep.
So Kindle 2, it isn't that much different. What inspired you to take the plunge?
Well, because my number one complaint of the original Kindle, and this is something I have the feeling that you and I discussed this and you didn't experience this. I remember talking to someone about this. I feel like the little flash that occurs when you turn the page is a bit much.
It annoys me.
Yeah. And it's not horrible. It's not the type of thing where it takes you out of the experience or whatever. But there are these times I'll be reading it in the morning and I'll click next. And then the thing just sits there for a second. And then the screen flashes. And then the top half kind of draws. And it's like, come on. It just gets some weird, display transition something. And that's actually one of the things that they really fixed in the new version. So as far as the portability, even the battery life, I think was okay in the first one. The quality of the images that were there, such as they were, I thought that stuff was fine. But the page turning, the performance of it, that was like the one thing that I just, that and
you get to the end of the page and you have to consciously time.
Yes, I do that all the time.
The last
few
reading words.
Exactly. And I actually, as I hit the last line, I click the button and I know I can always make it to the end before the thing
Sometimes, though, I screw up and I have to go back a page and say, shoot.
I have done exactly that, yes.
So you're right. It's a little bit annoying that this page flash and this page turn.
So what are we talking about here, right? We're talking about a very small issue. But again, I think this speaks to the fact that I use this thing every single day. So this has actually become a big part of my schedule on my one calendar. And, it is something that affects me every single day.
Yeah.
So to me, this is important. And by the way, the other thing I know is, in my case, my father-in-law is very, very interested in this device, would never spend the money to buy one. But I think would take advantage of the fact that you could subscribe to magazines for $2 a month in some cases, and newspapers for next to
there's another
nothing.
interesting feature. I don't know how good this is going to be. I too ordered one immediately. Mm-hmm. And we'll get ours in a week, and we can talk about it. Or 12 days, 14 days, but 2 weeks. But I like the idea that it'll read to you.
Yeah,
do you
maybe
think you'll
we'll
use
see.
that?
No, I don't. But
because you and I like audiobooks, and there's a big difference in a computer reading the text.
I'm going to try it, but it's not going to. It's going to be that metallic voice, right? It's going to be the Stephen Hawking's voice.
It'll be a little better than that.
Yeah,
you've heard the AT&T text to speech stuff, right? I mean, it's a little bit better.
This is clearly experimental. I don't know. I've been fascinated, by the way, to see the sort of press or reviewer reaction to this thing, because there are a lot of guys who are book people that are shocked and upset about this, and they love it and they hate it and they don't know where they are and they go back and forth and it drives them crazy. This is killing the book market. This is the future of the book market. It's really funny to watch people really dither over this thing. But, Stephen King wrote a short story.
Just a Kindle short story. Yeah,
I got it this morning. I actually read a huge portion of it.
Is it any good?
Yeah, it is. It's funny, though. As you first start reading it, you think, man, he mentions the Kindle so much. It's like a little sell job, you know?
Yeah, the pink
But actually,
Kindle.
it's basically about a possessed Kindle. So it's not really,
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny. So.
All right, listen, this is the voice here. Hello? Are you going to talk to me, voice? It's thinking.
It's thinking.
Come on, talk to me, voice. Oh, well. That was fun, wasn't
it? That's great.
It's taking its time. It's stuck doing something. Let me try that again here. It's, I don't know. Normally it does this. I think this is the same voice they're going to use. This is one of the AT&T voices.
That's good.
Yeah, I think you could get used to it.
It's okay. It's okay.
But it's not the same as a great Audible book.
No.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Goodbye.
It's like a Simpsons episode with the electronic house.
You don't want your Kindle to start hitting on you. That's not good.
Yeah. Well, maybe I do. I do like it a lot.
Do you like the metal back, though, in the new one? That looks pretty.
It's very iPod-esque.
Looks it'll be more user-friendly.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I'm okay. I'm okay with the one that's out now. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's too expensive, and I recognize that. And I know that it's targeting us, right? Those people who will buy anything like this, the book guys that have to have it regardless of cost. There aren't that many of us, though. And I think for this thing to reach a mass market, it needs to be considerably less expensive.
Yes, I agree.
That said, I mean, again, if you're a big reader, you got to look at this stuff. Compare the cost of subscribing to the New York Times over the year and a half I've had this thing versus the cost of getting it delivered to my house. Look at the cost of the books that I bought and read on this thing compared to the cost of actually buying those books. If
you read a lot, it would pay for itself. A lot.
Yeah, I think that's stretching it a little bit. Yeah, I think so.
It maybe evens out.
Yeah, it's close enough. I mean, that, it doesn't have to pay for itself as long as there's a convenience factor to it. By the way, there's something to be said for sitting in an airport and finishing a book you were just reading and saying, I'm going to buy one. I'll buy it online. It will be half the cost of if I walked to the bookstore.
For
that may or may not be open or there. Yeah.
For people who spend time in planes, I think the Kindle's a no-brainer. It's just, or any ebook anyway. It's just a great idea.
Sure.
So what will you do with the old Kindle? Will that be part of your everything must go?
No, I am going to give this to my father-in-law.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have to.
I think that's great. I think that's a great use of it. We talked about this last week. I forgot.
I have to pay him back for letting me marry his daughter. It's just something he's never really...
He's never forgiven you.
Lived down or
you
forgiven
son of a... a Kindle. Okay, never mind. I like you now.
Oh, Kindle. Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, you gave me something once. So what are you doing another Everything Must Go?
Yeah, I think... Do we talk about all this stuff? I think we did. Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
The 3 Xboxes,
3 Xbox 360s, Zune 120, WD Raptor Drive.
Yeah, we mentioned those. Are you getting them fixed?
My son is jumping up and down outside of my office, so I had to acknowledge him. I am getting them fixed. Yeah, so the Raptor is come and gone. It's gone and come, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's clearly I bought this thing when it was brand new because the form factor has changed significantly. It's basically a notebook hard drive attached to some form of cache.
It's got a big ass heat sink on
plugged into like a sled heat sink.
Yeah.
And the unit I got back looks completely different than the one I sent away.
Huh.
Yeah. So they've clearly fixed that. I put it in my PC. I'm not using it as my primary drive right now, but I have it as a secondary drive. Frankly, because I don't trust it, but it's working fine. The Zune was sent out for repair sometime over the past week. I don't remember when. And just last night, I received the boxes from Microsoft so I can ship back the Xbox 360s. So I've got UPS coming sometime today to get rid of those things. So what I was thinking was I will schedule the next Everything Must Go event. I was originally going to just say, look, it will be whatever time at the end of February. But I think it makes more sense to wait until I get those 360s back, because I want those to be part of it, and I will do that. So whenever they get back, I'll do that. But I have a lot of stuff, and I've got a lot of stuff to go through. I've got some, Microsoft Press books and video game stuff, and electronics hard drives and all kinds of stuff. So
good. All right. Yeah, so just let us know. We enjoy that. Everything Must Go. I'll even do a little commercial. Because I used to, in my early days in radio, I used to do, everything must go. Sunday. Come around to Paul Thurrott's house. He's giving a while away and blowing out the bare walls. You won't believe it. Yeah, I used to do that.
I'll even do it on a Sunday just to make that make sense.
We used to have a guy named Tom Campbell. He used to do stereo commercials for a stereo store called Matthew's Top of the Hill Daily City. And it was the funniest thing. I have to see if I can find them. He would talk really, really fast, and he'd do them from the store. And sometimes he'd do them on TV live, and people would flip him off and stuff as he's doing this. It was we're blowing out the bare walls. You won't believe the deals at Matthew's Top of the Hill Daily City. It was great. He was great. He was my.
That's all. And he just could actually rifle through that.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
It was incredible. So I'll do one for you. You give me the list, and I will record a professional.
Okay.
Paul Thurrott's blowing it out to the bare walls. Yes, he can't. He's gone crazy. He's insane. He can't believe the deals. And we'll just do a whole thing.
That's awesome.
It'll be fun.
All right. That'll be good.
I look forward to that. Hey, we're going to come back. We're going to get Paul's tips for simplifying your life and getting rid of my calendars. Also, we're going to get a software pick of the week. And, the Large Hadron Collider. We got another Windows 7 theme coming up. But before we do that, I do want to mention our good friends at audible.com, the great audiobooks at audible.com. I'm just such a big fan, and I know Paul is too. This is Lincoln's birthday we're recording this on, and I've been reading the incredible Doris Kearns Goodwin book, Team of Rivals. I think you recommended that. It was incredible. Yep. And it's just a real thrill to be reading this on Lincoln's birthday. It's kind of fun. I'm right at the part where he's giving the Emancipation the Gettysburg Address. Just amazing. And there's been a lot of stuff on TV. And they're making a movie of this book next year. I was thinking as I'm listening to this,
with Gary Sinise as Abraham Lincoln.
You might as well be. I'm thinking as I'm listening to this is what a movie. This is so dramatic. This would be an awesome movie.
Yeah, it really would. Yeah.
One of the things about audiobooks is it's like having a movie in your head. It really is a way of experiencing a book that is very different from reading it. And that's one of the reasons I really love Audible.com. 51,000 titles. I have to say, I've been listening to audiobooks for longer than Audible's been around. But I joined Audible as soon as they showed up on the scene, 2001, because I had been renting cassettes and stuff. It was just a real pain. And when I first joined Audible, there was a little scant. They had a lot of abridged stuff from the publishers. The unabridged stuff, which I prefer, was scant. They didn't have much sci-fi. Well, boy, in the 8 years intervening, they've done a remarkably good job of adding all of those books. They know that people want unabridged, so unabridged selection is fantastic. They still have abridged books if you're short on time, but I like this is the other thing is you read big long books that you might not normally read, right? Because you use your spare time, your commute time or your workout time, you get through these books. You'd be surprised without any effort. A week's gone by, suddenly you've read Team of Rivals, and it's incredible. Liam Neeson is going to be Abraham Lincoln, by the way, in the movie.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. This is, let me see.
He's probably, 80 years old or even dead now. But if you remember I always think of him as the preacher from High Plains Drifter.
Yeah. What's his name?
I don't know who he is, but that's the guy I always picture as Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
All and gone.
Yeah. But they haven't made a Lincoln movie in years. This is going to be Steven Spielberg's directing it. Tony Kushner, the guy who did Angels in America, is doing the screenplay from the Doris Kearns Goodwin book. I mean, this is going to be awesome.
Right.
I can't wait to see that. I mean, Spielberg. And Sally Field plays Mary Todd Lincoln. Abe, you like me. You really like me.
She has some familiarity with the crazy ones.
The crazy material. Yeah. No, I think Liam Neeson is actually a very good choice for Honest Abe. But that's just one. If you like history, I think Audible is a really great resource. If you like fiction, if you like Stephen King, there's a good example. When I first joined Audible, they hardly had any Stephen King. I don't think they had any. Right. And then all of a sudden, they must have done a deal because they have them all. I mean, they have a huge selection. Charles Darwin's 200th birthday is today, or would have been today. He won't be celebrating with us.
Right.
But if you want to read Darwin material, they have The Origin of Species, of course, the book that announced natural selection to the world, but also many other wonderful books about Charles Darwin. The Voyage of the Beagle by Charles Darwin. They have some wonderful stuff. Highly recommend Audible.com for learning, for entertainment. audible.com/windows. Go there right now and you can sign up for a gold account, which gives you a book a month. And the credit toward the first book is free. So even if you decide not to stick around, you get to keep that. So pick a book, listen to it. I guarantee you'll get hooked. You'll just love it. Give it some time. Sometimes when people first listen to audiobooks, it's a little bit of a struggle. You're not used to that. You find your attention drifting or whatever. But you'd be surprised. Now I have no trouble. And in fact, has this happened to you, Paul? There's a weird thing that happens. I remember what I was listening to when I go around a corner and I go at the same spot. I can kind of recollect what I was listening to. It's some sort of weird association thing happens. Really
I listen to the same audiobook a lot when I'm flying. And it's just one I can go back to for whatever reason.
What is it?
Fascinated. It's the Icon Steve Jobs.
Really? You like it that much that you keep listening to it?
I don't know what it is. It's the type of thing I don't listen to it in sequence. I can just bop into any part. And Steve Jobs obviously is fascinating.
What a character!
Yeah, I don't know what I can just pick it up at any time. It reminds me of airplanes.
For some reason, it's weird because somebody else told me that this is a really good audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
It's Jeffrey Young's book. This is the one that Apple banned the publisher from the books from the Apple
I don't
stores.
even.
There's
honestly,
no reason to.
There's no big deal there. Yeah. It's no different than any
No,
other. Apple.
everybody knows this story. Give me a break. There's also Patrick Lawler reads I Was, and I've heard that's a really, really good, the Steve Wozniak story. Really, really good read. Anyway, you could see the variety. Give it a try today. Audible.com/Windows. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly. We love them. Nice guys there, too. They really, they love the show. It's really kind of neat. So, simplify. Paul is turning into a Zen master. Over the last year, Paul,
the true Zen master would explain to you that he does not have all the answers.
But you do.
But no, I don't. But I'm trying. I'm trying.
You're very trying.
I am very trying. I'm also very trying.
You're trying to get rid of crap.
Yep. Trying to simplify.
Simplify your life. One calendar, not many.
Yeah. One thing I'm going to do with my wife sometime soon. We're going away next week, and it will probably have to happen after that. But I want to sit down with her. She does the money and the finances, which is getting increasingly easy because we make so little now. But I want to go over the stuff, that I sort of blindly spend money on every month and understand what that is and get rid of some stuff.
Yes. What a good
the
idea.
Unnecessary monthly expenses, but I think you can apply that to a lot of different areas, and if you think about technology, a lot of people maintain multiple email accounts, multiple calendars in some cases. I think the big one these days is actually what I think of as digital personas. A lot of us have multiple blogs. They're on instant messaging. They're on Twitter. They're on Facebook. How do you, handle the differences between these things and when do you use which and so forth? And maybe is it time to think about getting rid of some of these things? One of the big questions I get all the time, a variation of a question is, what do you use for this? Or what Firefox add-ons do you use? I think we talked about that one. Or, when you install Windows, what's the first thing that you do and all that kind of stuff? And the truth is, and it's not just because of what I do. I have certain requirements, obviously, for my job and so forth, but I really seek to simplify everything as much as possible. For example, I really hope that Internet Explorer 8 is as good as I think it could be, because, not installing another browser and worrying about another thing would be a nice thing to skip. Another thing I don't have to install, But when it comes to this PIM type stuff, especially, it may not be possible to get rid of multiple accounts. Maybe you have one for work, maybe you have one for home, maybe you have some legacy AOL or Yahoo account or whatever it is, and it's complicated. But modern email clients, and by that I mean webmail accounts like Gmail, but also applications. If you happen to use a Windows application to manage Gmail, can aggregate all of these things into a single place. I mean, you could use Gmail as your only email program, but have it collect mail from all of these other accounts.
Right.
Simplify. And I think at the very first step, if you can't get rid of the other ones, which I think you could, but if you can't, in some cases, at least aggregate them into a single place. Yeah. The calendar thing we were talking about, there will always be pushback, and I understand that, and everything doesn't work the same way for everyone. And I'm not trying to position what I'm saying here as the be all end all, that you have to do this. There's no other alternative. But like I said, when forced to go to one calendar for a specific reason, I kind of went into it, kicking and screaming as I do. But now here it is 2 years later, probably. And I couldn't even imagine doing it differently, And I'm so glad I only have this one thing to deal with, Same thing with, unfortunately, when it comes to blogs, I am Twitter and so forth, Facebook. I mean, I'm out there. This is part of what I do for a living. I have to maintain these different things. But what I can do is draw a line on each of these to determine, what they're used for. So, for example, I've determined that for me, this would make sense for a lot of people, but for me, Facebook is a way that I can connect with people, basically with anybody. I mean, I actually don't literally allow everyone in, but I do allow a lot of people in that want to reach me through Facebook, and that's okay. I don't allow people to reach me on Windows Live. And the reason I don't do that is because I use Windows Live for instant messaging, which I hate. And I don't want to get instant messages from people, that I don't know. because I already can't stand getting them from the people I do know.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean, there are some people that are very valuable to me that I converse with every single day on IM. But, IM can be a huge interruption, whereas things like Facebook are sort of opt-in from a time thing. There's no Facebook applet running in the corner, right? I have to go to Facebook. So I can determine when that happens. But, instant messaging, the way the Windows Live stuff works, I'm reserving Windows Live for those people that I actually know. And know really well. So I can at least do that. But I think for a lot of people, it's time to start, maybe it's time to start thinking about how we share things, and how we do things with other people online and how we interact and so forth and consolidate down in some way. So I think across all those things, email, calendar, contacts management, and then the managing of your personal life and so forth, your digital life online. Yeah, I think it's time to consolidate and just make it's just less to manage. It's just less stuff, And in this case, it's digital stuff, but it's just less stuff to worry about.
It's really true because digital stuff proliferates in a way. It's so easy to create a new email account or another calendar that it just naturally.
I could go back and look today. I get email every day from services that I do not use.
Right.
Every day.
Oh, God. You think
because
you're bad.
It is so easy to sign up for anything.
Yeah.
So, again, I'd have to go back and look, but, it's all this service stuff. And
you always think it's going to save you time or having multiple multiple
That's
calendars.
Always the hope. It's always the hope. I mean, you're trying to be more efficient, I'm sure.
And it doesn't.
It's just like everything else. They didn't invent fast food to kill us. They invented fast food to help us. But, the truth is it's killing us.
That's really true.
So this stuff is like fast food.
Yeah, it is.
And you need to cut back.
It's digital fast food.
Leo, you have a problem.
I am now consolidating. Based on your recommendation, I'm going to...
Don't do it right now. We have to talk about some other stuff.
Okay. Well, I was trying to figure out... I think I figured out how to consolidate Google calendars into fewer is you can export them using the private calendar and then import them into the main one. And so I'm only going to have a couple
Listen, I'm not... again, I always feel odd when someone actually follows my advice. I feel bad.
Because I'm going to blame you when my life sucks.
Right, exactly. What when your wife complains to you because she's sharing your calendar and what is all this crap I don't do or whatever.
Yeah, it's your fault. I said, Tharat told me to do it. I'm sorry, honey. He said life would be better. Now, you also have some, I'm interested in this. This has become the Windows 7 desktop theme show.
I know. Well, some of these they're so awesome. I love high quality, high resolution images, right? That look beautiful on your desktop. Daniel Smith sent me a collection he had made of photos he collected of the Large Hadron Collider in Europe, and he made a Windows 7 theme out of them. And I created a tiny URL so you can go get them easily. So it's tinyurl.com/win7themes2.
Okay.
That's wrong in the notes, by the way.
I see that. I'm going to fix it right now.
Let's fix that. And again, these images are absolutely stunning. I mean, they're beautiful. And again, if you don't have Windows 7, no problem. Download the theme pack. You can unarchive it with your zip type program of choice, and at least use the desktops. I mean, some of them, well, not some of them, they're all incredible, but some of them are particularly good for desktops. And it's just a high quality, collection of photos. Really nice.
Very cool.
So thank you for sending that in.
And the URL is tinyurl.com/
Win7themes2.
The number 7 and the number 2?
Yes, sir.
Win, WIN, the number 7, THEMES, the number 2. Excellent. Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm downloading them right now. I love
them. They're really nice.
I'm hooked on themes. Let us get our software pick of the week, as long as we're downloading here.
Yeah, this one actually came in at the last minute. I've complained in the past that one of the problems with Windows 7 is they've gotten rid of something called the Software Explorer, which was a function of Windows Defender. Software Explorer allowed you to look at all of the things that were starting up on the PC and then remove those that you didn't want, from booting up or, from running at boot time. Now, Windows has had a utility for a long time called msconfig, or it's system configuration. But if you go to the Start menu search in Vista or Windows 7, you can type in msconfig, and you'll see that this thing pops up. This has been around for a long time. a number of people have emailed me about it saying, well, yeah, but what about this thing? And yes, actually, it's true. Windows 7 does include this utility. The problem with this utility is it hasn't changed in years and years, and it is absolutely abysmal at helping you understand what these things are and what they do. And because the window itself is not resizable, you can't. It just makes it hard. If you want to see the full command, you can stretch out that column, but you can't see anything else. And if you want to see the location, especially if it's something in the registry, this application is just really lousy. So yes, Windows 7 does have that same bare bones functionality that's been available for a long time. It's not as nice as Software Explorer. It's not as nice as the utility that's also in Windows Live OneCare. It's better than nothing. But I also got an email from Stephen Hoos today who told me about something I've never heard of. It's called Glary Utilities, and it's a wonderful replacement for Software Explorer, but it also does a bunch of other things. But built into this is a thing called the Startup Manager, and this basically is a replacement for the Software Explorer from that used to be in Windows Defender, or is in Windows Defender today in Windows Vista. And it's called Startup Manager. So if you go into there, again, it gives you a much nicer display. Oh, cool. It's a resizable window, and it actually has ratings. It has an understanding of what these things are. So there are red bars for things that you really just don't need. So for example, the QuickTime task, which will slightly increase the speed at which QuickTime boots.
I always turn that off. I hate it.
Is got a big red bar next to it because it's absolutely worthless.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. It's an ad.
It's silly.
Yeah.
The Adobe Reader has a speed launcher. There's an iTunes helper that you don't need, an Apple Sync notifier that you won't need if you don't run Mobile Me.
Right.
So you can go through this list, and it's just a nicer interface because it tells you the company. It tells you where it is. Like MS Config does, but in a much nicer display. And it gives you some information, some rating information, which I really feel is valuable in helping you understand. Because one of the problems with this kind of thing is you look at this list and you're like, well,
yeah,
what is
I don't know
this?
what it's doing.
You don't necessarily know or recognize some of this stuff. So this helps you get this stuff out of the way.
Cool.
Yeah, really cool. And by the way, again, it does a bunch of other things related to keeping your system running at an optimized state and, that kind of stuff. It's got registry cleaner and all kinds of other things. So definitely worth looking at.
Very good, my friend. I'm going to add that to my Start Run collection.
Just realized I didn't provide a URL for that, did I?
No.
So let me look that one up. It's GlaryUtilities.com.
GLARY, Glary Utilities.
GLARY utilities.com. That's right.
That's why I like a wiki. It's easy to add that.
There you go.
Very good. And it's free?
It is free.
100% freeware, it says.
Let me make sure about that. Yes, 100%.
Well, they have the free, and then they have the Pro.
Is it Pro?
Yeah. Glary Utilities Pro, powerful, all-in-one utility, optimized. So I'm not sure. I guess you'd have to look and see what the difference is between the free and the Pro. I like it when they do that, though. That's extra stuff.
Right.
You can do. Well, it's to try it, and if you want the extra stuff,
right,
you can do. Well, this does everything.
Yeah, it is. It's surprisingly full-featured. It's nice.
Whoa, that's amazing. Okay. Yeah. And then you can try the Pro free, too.
Yep, and it does work in Windows 7.
Cool. Paul Thurrott, we're out of time, but I do want to thank you for coming here and enlightening me and simplifying my life.
Okay. I want to hear about your one calendar next week. Sir.
I'm working on it. I'm going to mush it all into one single calendar, which is probably easier to do than unmush it. So once you go those individual,
you might be in trouble. Yeah,
calendars.
I'm sure it will be fine. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? The motto of this show: simplify, simplify, simplify. Thank you, Paul Thurrott. We'll see you next week on Windows Weekly.